by my tomatillo trees yesterday, and two things surprised me. Number one, the tomatillos had actually filled out. They weren't just like paper balloons anymore. They actually had tomatillos full inside of them. So that was exciting. And I noticed yesterday a couple had fallen on the ground all of a sudden. So I know a little about tomatillos, not much. But one thing I did hear is that as soon as they fall to the ground, they're ready and to harvest them right then. So I took those inside. I kind of scored the top of them and then I put them in a Ziploc. I'm going to try to save enough to do some green salsa verde. Salsa verde, I guess saying green is redundant for that. But I came out here today and I had even more of them on the ground. Now, one's a little bit more yellow paper than the others. Don't know if that's good or bad. I'll see when I open it. But all of these had just fallen overnight or either early this morning, so I picked them up. Now, you see these little chairs and all. What was going on was some of my branches had just kind of fallen over and were laying on the ground. And I noticed that some ants and stuff were crawling on some of the tomatillos on the ground. So I just brought these little wire chairs over here from my porch. Well, they're plant stands is what they are. And I put the branches up on there just to get them off the ground. That way, I just don't want to lose any of them to ants and stuff if possible. And I brought this chair over here because while this one was pretty much standing straight up with the tomatillos on one of the branches, it had fallen to the ground. So that branch I've just have leaning on this chair, trying to keep those up off the ground. But this is so very interesting. It's just interesting to grow something new. I've never grown tomatillos before. I don't think I have enough between both of these bushes. I have a good many, but I don't think I have enough for just pints and pints of salsa verde. But that's fine if all I can do is get one pint. I'm happy with things like that because what I'll do is I have cherry tomatoes that I'm going to be putting up, and later on I'll have real tomatoes. But that's why I kind of use my freezer as a holding place. I put things in the Ziplocs, keep them in my freezer. Tomatoes and all freeze very well. And then when you're ready, you pull them out. So what little salsa verde I can probably get off of these two bushes, I'm going to be happy with, and I'll process them on the same day I'm doing my other tomatoes. So it won't be like I'm wasting time or electricity or anything else to get it done. So that doesn't bother me. I'm just happy to have them. I tried growing them last year. Two of my plants died, so I only ended up with one plant, which was beautiful. Just bloom, bloom, bloom. But I found out you have to have two by each other to actually grow tomatillos. They have to self-pollinate each other, or pollinate each other. And so this year I do have two that survived out of my three, and I'm getting tomatillos. And it's just one more little tool I feel like I can put in my pouch. I learned how to grow tomatillos. I learned how to grow them. I'll see if I can come up with some kind of good salsa out of this. But I know now I can grow them. And I have other tomatillos that I haven't grown yet. What I wanted to do was just try these green husk ones first. I got the seeds from Seed Savers Exchange, and the seeds have been germinating well, doing well as far as my seed starting. And now they've proven that they actually will go the long way, and put off fruit. So I'm going to experiment next. I'm going to grow these green ones again next year because I really want some of that green salsa verde, a lot of that put up if I can. So next year what I'll try to do is just grow a lot more tomatillo plants. And then I also have packets for purple tomatillos, and I have a packet of pineapple tomatillos. I would be very interested to know if any of y'all have ever grown the purple or the pineapple. Do you still just make a salsa? It wouldn't be salsa verde because I think verde means green. It wouldn't be a salsa verde, but do you still make salsas with those? What other things do you make with tomatillos to put on your shelf? I'd be interested to know that, especially the pineapple tomatillos, because obviously I think that's going to have a whole different flavor from the regular green tomatillos and all. So I'd be curious. If anybody's grown them, let me know. Now, my theme today, if you will, is this flower bed and a couple of other places in my front yard where I'm just not happy with the production. I'm not happy with how things are growing, and it could very well be my fault as far as maybe these are kind of like my beans. They're not loving this garden soil I brought in. I had planted some squash right here. All of these are my Cabarica beans, which I'm actually harvesting off of right now, so just kind of ignore those. I planted a bunch of what I thought was zucchini right here, but since I am getting a gold rush squash off of it, apparently I had stuck some seeds of that over here too. And these are not looking bad, but let me continue my story and I'll tell you what's going on. And then down here at this end, I had planted, I'm not sure what, I think they're scallop squash or something. I didn't track it very well. I was kind of concerned that they weren't growing well, so I put in some new seeds the other day, these littler plants, these smaller ones that you see kind of on the corners right there. Those are new growth. Now, they're all kind of looking a little yellow. I just think there's a nitrogen deficiency in this soil, and I just think the plants are feeling it. So I can mitigate that, but I've been giving it some thought. And I think I've decided that I'm just going to plant a whole bunch of cowpeas up in here. I'm going to leave planted what's planted. It is extremely slow growing on this end and on that very front end by my steps. So I'm not really expecting a lot out of this. If I get something, I get it. But if I don't, I don't. I'm okay with it. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to go ahead and plant some cowpeas. And just, if it's not going to grow, it's kind of got to go. That's going to be my theme, I guess, right now. If it's not going to grow, it's got to go. And I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to leave all of that there for a little bit, just for a little bit. I'm going to see what happens with that gold rush squash that's growing. Those are some new seeds I have, and I just wanted to kind of test them out. I'm going to see what else is on these other ones, and if I end up getting anything. It's just been the most well-growing little area there, but producing nothing. And the thing is, these plants, these seeds have been planted since the middle of March, 15th to 20th of March, maybe a little bit after that. They could have been a little bit after that freeze, maybe just even say the 25th of March. Okay, well that's 5, 35, 65, that's 65 plus days. And these are 45-day plants. So they're not doing anything. They're just not. And I'm kind of tired of waiting on them. It's kind of embarrassing for a southerner to sit here and say my squash and zucchini's not doing good, but my squash and zucchini's not doing good. And I think it's my fault. It might be a little too shady over here. They might not like this soil, and I'm just not going to put any more time into them. I'm going to leave them. I know it's kind of a, silly thing to say, no more time into them, but I'm going to leave them. I'm going to trim them up a little bit, but I'm going to put cowpeas all around them. And then if they don't start doing something soon that's worth keeping them, they're coming out, and I'm going to add more cowpeas in there. But all throughout this open section in the middle and down at that other end where my squash are, I've decided I'm just going to put in some of my Texas 40 cream peas. I obviously have a lot of seeds. I think they'll come up here. They don't really care usually about the soil a whole lot. They've grown at my other house in some soil that wasn't that great. I think I'm going to put these in. 65 days is what I have written here. They like heat, so 65 days is going to put us all the way through July. I think they'll do okay. Even if we get some extreme heat, they do have dappled shade over here, so I think they'll do okay. And I want something that's going to put me something off. I'll be completely honest with you. The reason I'm not so emotionally attached to all this other stuff is because I'm the only one in the house that likes it. My husband and my son do not eat squash and zucchini. And so I'm the only one that kind of wanted it. If I had enough, I would share it with people. But if it's not going to grow, if it's going to take forever, why not grow some cream peas that I can share with people, put up in jars and can and share with people. So that's what I'm going to do. If it's not going to grow, it's got to go. I made some decisions yesterday and I pulled up my 2 sugar pie pumpkins. I had one little pumpkin on there. I just went ahead and harvested it. I don't know that it was completely ready, but I took it out. The vines had started looking horrible. The vines were just dying. I pruned on them. I tried to keep them alive. I've made sure they had plenty of water. I've been watering in my little PVC tubes and doing everything I could do to keep them growing. And they just kept looking worse and worse. And what happened was this bed over here, under this tree, under those wood chips, I have garden soil and dirt. And here is where I had growing all my North Georgia candy roasters and everything. Well, I had one that was ready to harvest. The tendril had died. It had kind of stopped growing. And I came out here yesterday and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take it because I didn't want any kind of bugs to get at it. It was, you know, when they get overripe, sometimes the bugs will go at them. So I came out here and I cut the vine. I cut it as high as I could towards the mainline vine, and a worm crawled out of the stem. I didn't realize, because these vines were looking bad as well. They were looking bad, and that's the reason I kind of wanted to harvest it, is because the vines were kind of looking like that, except worse. They were just dying off. I left this one in the ground because it has this little candy roaster on it, but I really don't have any hope. That one's probably already beset with some kind of vine borer or two. So I'll be honest with you, I'm really not any kind of an expert on squash bugs, vine borers, or anything like that, because I've never had to deal with them before. But when I did that yesterday, a little worm came out of the stem. I just went ahead, I killed the worm. I went ahead and harvested the candy roaster and kept it because it seems intact and it seems like it's okay. But I had my butternut rugosas in here. All of it had been growing beautifully, and then all of a sudden they turned yellow, brown, dying, boom. So I'm assuming all of it was beset with that same kind of vine borer thing. So I just ripped them out. And I'm also going to put here in this around this right side of the tree, I'm just going to go ahead with some cowpeas. Now I selected for this bed and for over there where my sugar pie pumpkins were, and in the other little bed right here where my cushaw pumpkins were, because I went ahead and pulled them out too yesterday. Their vines were looking horrible. I was assuming that they had been beset by the same thing. I went ahead and harvested my 2 cushaws. Their stems were solid. They had not been bored into by anything. They were solid as they could be. So I think they're okay, but I just took it all out. I took it all out. And I'm gonna go ahead and substitute with, these are called Sea Island peas. These are cowpeas, but they're called Sea Island peas. I got them from Baker Creek about 3 years ago. Never put them in the ground. Don't know why. But it says here, they're a small red to brown pea, traditionally combined with Carolina gold rice for a local staple dish, easy peasy. And when they say local, they're talking about the Carolinas. And considerable diversity and outstanding vigor in this semi-wild type, and they taste delicious. I'm not gonna put any kind of trellising here. It's kind of like they may vine out and kind of run, but I'm just gonna let them run on the ground since I have so many wood chips. And I'm gonna put them all there around the right side of the tree. I'll have enough seeds to put a few in there, maybe 10, 12, 14 plants in there. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with that little bed over there, just kind of ring it in these cowpeas. And I'm gonna just grow something I think will grow and will not be dealing with vine borers or things like that. You can run into other issues with cowpeas, but I'm gonna just try to do the best. I'm not gonna fight little bugs just to try to get one more sugar pie pumpkin or something like that. I'll just take them out. Just take them out. If they're not gonna grow, they gotta go. Put something else in there. So today's pick is the Sea Island cowpea. I've got the hose set on these Texas 40 cream peas. I'm gonna move the hose around in a little while on the other ones and get them watered in. We'll see what happens. We're gonna get out of here and take our little Sunday afternoon drive. But at least I know I did a little something to get something else going. I hate to be so negative, but if it's not gonna grow, it's gotta go. That's just the way it is. It's taking up valuable real estate, and I'm gonna evaluate more and more of what I can substitute to keep perpetual plants growing. Usually you call it succession planting, but I'm not really calling it that because I'm pretty much just deciding some things aren't cutting it and I'm eliminating them. Whereas succession planting, you just plant the same thing at different times right by each other or wherever, and to make sure you always have it coming up. Well, this stuff is not coming up the way I want it to, so not growing, I guess, or producing the way I want it to. So it's got to go. That's just the way it is. That's gardening. There's always more seeds around. So thank y'all so much. Y'all have a great day and have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Just a little update here on my front flower bed in front of my house. I filmed the first part of the video yesterday, and I told you I was planting cowpeas, and I was going to leave these zucchini and squash, but I had pretty much given up on them. Well, what I've done is a little cleanup. I've tried to do the best I can with what I can. I did go ahead and plant cowpeas all up in here. About every 6 or 8 inches, all up in this flower bed are new cowpea plants. So they'll be coming up, but they're like 65 days. So it's going to take a little while for them to get going and everything. In the meantime, some of these plants, what I did was I trimmed off any yellowing leaves to give them good airflow. I showed you this zucchini yesterday, and I noticed I have another one coming on to the left of it there. That's a new little zucchini coming on. I call them zucchinis because these are actually yellow zucchinis that I planted here. These are yellow zucchinis. So I think they have a name, but I can't remember the name. So that's what these are. So I've got 2 of those coming on. I don't really see any more on these bigger plants, but I do have lots of buds and stuff, so they might produce something. And then over here on one of these smaller plants, I do see a gray zucchini coming on. That's a little gray zucchini right there. They're just beautiful. So even though these plants aren't big, they are starting to bloom, and it looks like I am going to probably get a few zucchini off of these. So as I said before, I'm just going to leave them, but I did go ahead and plant cowpeas all up in here. I don't want to wait till something's completely through. I want to go ahead and get other things going to kind of succession plant, but with different varieties and for different reasons. And then all around the edge here, I chop and dropped my Kebarika beans. The ones you still see here still have beans on them that aren't ready yet. I decided to just let them get to the green stage and then go ahead and just shell them. And I'm putting them in a Ziploc. Here's a few here. Chop and dropped all those. A few more here. A few more down here. So I chop and dropped the rest of them and put that in a little pile, left the roots in the ground, put the beans in a Ziploc, and I'm going to let these keep going until they turn a buff color and get ready to shell. So that's what I decided to do. It kind of really cleaned up this bed, and I think if I just kind of give everything a little ventilation, the cowpeas will start coming on. Beans are nitrogen fixers, but I don't know that that'll affect these zucchinis this year, but it sure will help put some nitrogen into the soil for next year. Thank y'all so much. Bye-bye.